So to introduce you for anyone that maybe isn't a listener already or hasn't heard of you, let's do the kind of standard introduction and background. Who are you? And just, that short, why am I here type of thing.
Why am I here? Oh, the ultimate question. Hi, my name's Emmy. I'm from a band called Redhook from Sydney, Australia. We're an independent, heavy-ish band. We've been doing this for a couple of years, and we're just about to release our debut album, which is really exciting.
Yeah, and it's dope. I've got the advanced copy, so I don't know if Eder can tell exactly how many times I've streamed it, but it's somewhere around 100. Like,
oh my gosh,
it has been on repeat all the fucking
legend,
time.
Josh, thank you so much, man. That's sick.
Yeah, it is. It's such a good album, and I can't wait for people to hear it. And I think that's kind of where I want to start this with you, so that we can kind of ease into some of our topics and things like that. Let's talk about, the writing process and kind of building up this body of work to tell not necessarily a conceptual album by any means, like it's not following a character or story per se, but it's very clearly a diary entry, if you will, and exposing your life. What was that like for you to kind of put this all into words?
Yeah, totally. It's in terms of the process, this album kind of came together kind of in dribs and drabs, and it is a diary entry, but it's interesting because different songs are kind of written about sort of different points in my life and different things I've gone through over the past, I guess, maybe 4 or 5 years, where a lot has changed. So it's I guess the concept of mental health and different kind of mental health struggles sort of runs through the DNA of this album in different ways, and I guess from different angles. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, for instance, the title track, Postcard, it's really strange to be kind of releasing that now, because I wrote some of the lyrics and the whole concept of the song when I was at rock bottom, just at absolute rock bottom. So it's strange, but it's also nice to be kind of you said, at as if it was a diary entry or a snapshot of a really dark time in my life, putting that out there. But now sort of having come through that, and everything's so much better, and just kind of looking back, and it's cathartic, and it's also hopeful, and I hope that kind of translates to people that listen to it.
Yeah, I think it definitely will. And the album's called Postcard-from-Malivinghell, which I thought was an incredible title, especially after hearing it, because again, I'm 38 years old. I've battled mental health as long as I can remember, and to me, the kind of symbolism with that of hey, I'm in a living hell, but I'm still sending out these postcards to let people know I'm still here. I'm still, checking in. And it was man, how real is that?
Yeah. I really, I thought I was really happy with the title. I think it really encapsulates that kind of, and also, and I guess that's kind of the vibe with a lot of our songs as well, and especially me, in terms of my lyrics, I can write stuff that's really, really, really dark, but then at the same time, a lot of the time, there's still that kind of element of trying to laugh at it, and kind of, because it in a weird kind of fucked up way. At least for me, I've found, where I've got quite a dark sense of humor. And even when I talk about, I might do this today when we're having conversations, when I'm talking about really, really traumatic stuff, one of my kind of ingrained defense mechanisms is to just make jokes and laugh about it, because in a way it kind of makes it feel like it's got less power over you when you can laugh at it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And that reminds me of a meme I saw a while back that said, I hate when I'm telling, or it's always ironic when I'm telling a traumatic story that I don't realize is traumatic until I tell it. And then somebody has that look on their face and you're just oh, I'm supposed to be hurt by this. Whoops.
Oh, whoops. What's wrong with my brain? I love that. You always leave it to memes to be able to just skewer the human condition.
Yeah, it is incredible. And I think, I want to say back to your lyric writing and whatnot. I think the thing, we kind of touched on it at the beginning, with all of us being drawn to this type of music, and I think, as much as I hate the gender difference and using that as, oh, they're female fronted or whatever, like, because ultimately it doesn't fucking matter. But I think the big difference in this genre, when we talk about, pop punk or heavy music, a lot of times the content that you're writing has been sung about from the male perspective, but it's typically the like, woe is me, like, oh, she broke my heart, whatever. And the girl side of it is always, it's that, but it's so much more empowering the way that you write that stuff, that it's like, yeah, this bad thing fucking happened, but oh well, I'm going to rise up and move past this.
That's funny. I've never really thought about that before. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's definitely, I guess when you, I guess like the cliche kind of like sad boy
Right.
like angsty, emo, heavy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, like when you talk about the gender thing, because one thing that I found when I was growing up was, because I'm like much like yourself, but like mental health has been, always like a sort of a constant sort of theme and
Right.
thing that I've struggled with like over the years since I was a teenager, and I like a lot of in like a lot of interviews and stuff, people always ask you about your influences, it's like the typical question.
Right.
But I never really, like, in terms of like female artists who influenced me, I never really sort of, I never really found any of those kind of artists. Like there were never really any female artists singing about this
Mm-hmm.
type of stuff when I was growing up. And so I didn't really, it was all like, like Avril Lavigne, and it's like,
Right.
oh, like, I don't like your boyfriend, like that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, like, and which is, fun, and it is what it is. But like, there was never really anything that really spoke to me. And so I guess what I kind of, I mean, want to be is like have that female voice for like girls like me that struggle
Mm-hmm.
with this kind of stuff when they're growing up, to kind of, to show, to kind, I guess, kind of normalize it, because like I did feel like a bit of a freak,
Right.
when you're growing up and you don't have that kind of experience reflected in music from somebody who is, you feel a connection with, or you think, oh, they're like me, and I didn't
Right.
have that. So
Yeah.
I guess, like putting these experiences that I've had into music, I kind of hope that at least sort of provides that kind of support, or
Well, it goes
just
into kind of like the representation thing, right? Like, you've
totally.
never been able to see yourself as that point in the music industry. And that's something else I wanted to touch on, especially with you partnering with Michaela, who is tell. But you guys, especially the Aussie scene, let's be fucking honest. You guys, yours truly, Stand Atlantic, Bonnie over there, like, you girls are killing it. And like, it's finally, I think, finally making this culture shift of pop punk is a boy band type of genre, and it's fucking not anymore, and it's so cool to see.
Yeah, it's fucking rad, man. And like Bonnie and Mick, I love those two legends so much. They both inspire me so much in different ways, and they're just both incredible humans, incredible artists. And I think it's funny, I was so we're doing a few interviews at the moment, and like someone brought up the other day, like, the thing, and like we've had it so bad, which has always made me laugh, like the Paramore thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I love Paramore are amazing, but it's just like that kind of, when you're a female fronted band playing music that has guitars in it,
Right.
regardless of, like, we were a new metal band when we
Yeah.
first started, and we still got compared to Paramore, even though we were playing music that sounded more like, Limp Bizkit and Linkin Park. but we still got the Paramore comparison, which is, I mean, it's fun, but it's because like, you know, that band was so, you know, influential and amazing. But the thing that I love now that we're having like this explosion of, you know, like female and femme identifying artists playing this music is, I think for the next generation, it's not going to be the case. There's going to be so many more. It's not, everybody's just not going to be comparing any female artist to this one band. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, no, and I think it is incredible because there are, you know, doing a quick list, you know, there's you guys, yours truly, Stand Atlantic, Spirit Box, Against the Current, like Concrete Castles. There are so many super talented and powerful voices in the scene now that I think you're absolutely right. In the next, you know, generation, they're going to look back and be like, oh, you sound like late 2020s music. Okay, that's cool. Like, period. There's no gender to it anymore because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
It's a really exciting and beautiful time, I think, to be in this scene and playing this kind of music.
Yeah, for sure. So let's touch on Imposter with Michaela, because again, she's fucking rad. She's been on the show a few times. Love that girl. You guys had kind of an interesting realization and kind of an explosion of friendship come out of this song.
Yeah, it was surreal, man. It was surreal because like Michaela and I have been we've been friends for like a couple of years. Not like super close friends, but like we've been, you know, we've always loved and respected each other, and we always wanted to, like, she did some gang vocals on our song Bad Decisions from our debut EP. But yeah, we wanted to do like a proper collab. And yeah, this song, it was one of my favorite songs off the album, and I just thought her voice would sound amazing. And it was just crazy because when I sent her the song and sort of explained what it was about, it was just like this holy shit moment where we realized that we were going through just like these parallel situations, like, which basically TLDR, going through breakups with, you know, people who we found out had just been lying to us the entire time, manipulating us the entire time, and like just processing the head fuckery of that. Like, who is this person? Like, have they just changed? Or like, who this person that I have in my head, do they even exist at all? Like, and it was just this insane experience of like pouring like that confusion and trauma into this song together. And it just, and it was like, I had no idea that it just like it's having Michaela on this song and bringing her voice and her experience and like the lyrics she added, the different parts that she added, just I don't even have words for it. It was just mind blowing, and it just made the song so much more special to me. And you're right, we kind of just trauma bonded and like just became really close through the process of going through these experiences together, and then also like pouring those experiences into this song. So it was strange and beautiful and amazing. And I love the song that came out of it.
I think it's been taking off on streaming and YouTube and stuff like that. I think it's definitely one of the songs that like is a clear single on the album. That being said, though, I think there's some sleepers that haven't been released yet that are going to blow people's fucking minds.
Oh, thank you, man. That's like, what's your favorite?
For me, it's Inarticulate. That song fucking is incredible.
Thank you so much. That song is very, very special to me.
Yeah.
It's a very, very personal song.
Yeah, it is. So I do this thing. I advocate for it on the podcast all the time, that whenever somebody drops a new album, obviously you've already heard the singles, but you should run it front to back at least 2 to 3 times. That way you get, you know, you can feel where it's at, whatever. And on the very first playthrough front to back, that song was the one that I went, oh shit, what was that? You know, like immediately wanted to find out what's the song name? What, you know, like, what am I coming back to? It's just got such a crazy sleeper energy to it because you don't expect it to hit you as hard as it does.
Oh, I'm really, that makes me very happy to hear, because yeah, that song is very, very dear to my heart.
Yeah, it's absolutely insanely good. So let's talk about, again, we've touched on it, but putting this work out with as personal as it is, how much of, no pun intended with Imposter being the song with Michaela, because it's a different variation of it, but how much imposter syndrome comes in where it's like, okay, I've got this beautiful piece of artwork and I'm putting it out there and people are starting to react, and it's like, am I good enough? Like, is this a sympathy thing? What's happening?
100%, 100. Like, imposter syndrome is like, it is a very real part of my everyday experience being in a band. It's more just like, I had this, for me, it's this is gonna sound really cooked, but it's kind of like anytime I get like positive feedback, or anybody like compliments me or compliments what we do, I'm like, I fool them into thinking that I'm actually talented and that
Right.
I'm actually good at what I do. But I better be careful because they'll find out that I'm a fraud. Like,
Yeah.
It's cooked. And that's kind of and there's a song on the album called The Critic, which is kind of related to that. It's kind of like the whole premise of that song is like the critic is kind of like this metaphor for that little voice in our heads that tells us that we're fake, that we suck, that we should just give up. And it's and that song is me just basically yelling at that little voice. And it's like the hook in the song is like, get off my radio. It's kind of just trying to turn that voice down when it gets, because sometimes it's always there. So it's always there in the background, and like a lot of the time you can keep it right, muted or like turn the volume down. But sometimes we all have those times when we're like, when our mental health is a bit frayed or a bit worn down, where it gets louder and it gets harder to kind of push it back down. So yeah, that's the imposter syndrome is very real.
Yeah, and that's another song that I think is absolutely going to blow up. I took it, I mean, it's cool that it's that way. I took it more in a literal sense, thinking about all the gatekeeping that happens with female artists and whatnot, that maybe that was a producer or someone saying, like, hey, get her off the radio, like she doesn't belong here. But the message holds true. Yeah, and the message still holds true, that it's still like, okay, fine, you can say that, but I fucking do belong here, and I'm going to show you why.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, there's a little bit of that in our song Say as well. That's kind of, that song is me kind of giving it like a bit of a fuck you to like all those gatekeepers and the all of the misogynistic douchebags that I have encountered in this lovely industry over the years, because there's been a few.
And it's one of those things that it's so, unfortunately, it's still so prevalent, but it feels like it's still so stigmatized that when females or female presenting come forward with like, hey, this thing happened, people go, well, did it though? Or like they play it off like it's not really a big deal. That's the norm. And it's like, okay, but just because it's normal doesn't mean it's not fucked.
Totally. And I think and I almost like it's funny you should mention that, because Say was one of the singles off the album that we released, I think it was last year. And I mean, that was my kind of, it's like kind of the Me Too movement was a couple of years ago now.
Right.
And when we were releasing this song, I was like, well, kind of, this is my sort of story and my experience, but it's like, does anyone still care? Like it's kind of like, is it old news? It's kind of like, and which is a really fucked up way to think about it, because it should never be like that. And we should keep talking about this stuff, because like you said, like it's the same with like mental health, like it's not going to get better. It's the only way for society to improve and evolve is to keep having these conversations and just keeping like, oh, actually, nah, like that's fucked.
Right.
That should not be happening.
Yeah, yeah. And, obviously there's differences between the US and Australia with a lot of that stuff, but, the access to mental health care in general, putting some of my story out there for this is the first time I've talked about it. I'm currently in the process of trying to get diagnosis and things like that. And I started this process back at the beginning of February. My testing's not till the end of this month. I don't get results until the end of June. And it's like, we wonder why people don't seek help. It's because the help's not available.
Yeah, exactly. Man, yeah, that is so rough. And first of all, good on you. And I mean, it's really brave of you to even share that, and to be going through this process is very, very scary. So that's incredibly brave and amazing that you are doing that and prioritizing that self-care for yourself. But yeah, it sucks. Like, it sucks. And it's like, depression and those kind of like life-threatening mental health issues are an epidemic. Like, it
Yes.
is, I don't know what the stats are in the US, but here in Australia, suicide is the leading cause of death, the number one cause of death for people. I think it's aged between 15 and 55. It's staggering.
Yeah,
It's staggering. And
it's very similar here. It's the second leading cause. This is the part of the stat that's parts of the stat that are super fucked up. It's the second leading cause in the US for ages 10 to 35.
oh my God.
And within that, the number one cause is accidents. So it's the number one preventable cause of death, and we do little to nothing about focusing on it.
It's like it's just mind blowing. It's just mind blowing. It's a hat. And I mean, it's very, very similar in Australia. Like, I've heard so many stories of people. Like, we do have. I think the system is slightly better. We have like this. I mean, like, I think our healthcare. No offense, I think our healthcare system's just a little bit better. So we have like there's a scheme, at least in New South Wales, which is the state where I'm from, where you can have like 10 free sessions with a psychologist. But the problem that people have is it's so difficult to find a psychologist who actually understands them and can help them. And so what you get is people having to go see all these different doctors and just try and explain all of their trauma and everything that they're going through over and over and over again. And that, like, when you're depressed, it's hard enough to get out of bed and put your pants on in the morning, let alone having to do this and jump through all of these hoops just to get care and to get the help you need. The system is broken across the board, and more definitely needs to be done. And I don't understand why. It just feels like it's such a huge issue that affects so many people, and is literally costing lives, and it just keeps getting swept under the rug. Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense.
The only logic I have found to it is that it's a generational issue, in that the generation that is in control of government and policies currently is from the generation where you didn't talk about the uncomfortable stuff. You never addressed it. So their solution is, if we don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. And we're in the generation coming through going, no, if we don't talk about it, it kills people.
Literally. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we just need a purge, like, all like that generation just needs to retire.
Yeah.
And we'll take over.
Yeah, I don't know how it is in Australia for that, but like in the US, I mean, you can be in your 70s and be president, which blows my mind. That, you know what I mean? You're past retirement age, you're into nursing home age for a lot of people, but yeah, you can control the country. Like, I don't think that's right.
I know. It's bizarre. No, it's very much the same here. Like, politics is still dominated by crusty white, conservative boomers, for the most part. So yeah, definitely there definitely needs to be a shift. I think things are slowly shifting, but it's still, yeah, the sort of bastions of power still lie within those same like dinosaurs that it always has.
Well, and I just looked it up as of January 23rd, or sorry, January 30th, 2023, for the US Congress, the average age is 57.9 years old. As an average, which means there's so many that are fucking older than that. And on the list,
retirement home.
Yeah, like literally one of the guys,
I mean,
one of the ladies from California is 86 years old. What the fuck are you doing in Congress?
Dude, that blows my mind. And I mean, like, look, not to be ageist, but it's just
right.
It is the reality that the majority of people who are in politics and are that old have these views that are so backwards and refuse to engage with issues that are important now. They just have this mindset. They're like, this is how things were when I was growing up. This is what I believe. And it's just almost like they stick their fingers in their ears and they don't want to engage with anything else that's affecting. And it's like, and like you said, I mean, we laugh about it because it makes it feel less fucked for us. But it literally is like that kind of policy making is costing lives, and to a mind-blowing extent. It's it's really, really fucked up when you think about it.
Yeah, it is beyond reason. I mean, there's no way, if you were to describe a utopian society or whatever, there's no way that you would picture 86-year-old, 90-year-old people in control of your government. It'd be whatever the national average age is, and it'd be a like-minded body. And it's crazy because I think it plays into obviously all the policies and laws surrounding mental health, but then, which absolutely fucking insane to me, but in the US, suicide is illegal. It's a criminal activity. So I kill myself, but you're going to quote unquote, charge me with a crime? I'm dead. What crime did I commit?
That's insane. And there's one thing, there's a lot of, we have a lot of organizations here in Australia that have a high visibility, and there's definitely been a move to sort of change the language around suicide. And I don't know, I actually don't know if it's, I know the word suicide is still used a lot, but the word itself is by definition a crime, which is so bizarre. And it's important. Language and the way that we talk about things is so important, and it has a real world impacts on the way that people understand it and the things that happen. So yeah, they're just just what we're doing right now, just having talking about it, there just needs to be more of this.
Yeah, by people slightly more powerful than us, because who are we? But no, I think you have a great point, and I actually talk about the power of words a lot, and I use it a lot when I'm talking about, you see social media posts all the time that, oh, I'm depressed because I got a flat tire today, and it's like, that's not what depression is.
Yeah,
you're upset, you're sad, you're having a shit day. It's not depression, and I think when we say stuff like that, it takes away the power of someone that has depression saying, hey guys, I'm depressed. The mindset and perception is now, oh, you're just having a bad day. No, I'm fucking depressed.
It really minimizes it. Yeah, you're so right. Yeah, and I think yeah, it's definitely, I think that's definitely an issue as well, the way that we, and especially the role that social media plays with people reaching out and expressing mental health, because I feel because some people It's really, really hard. I think a lot of people abuse social media for, if they're just like looking for attention and stuff
Right.
like that. And then that also kind of, because you never know, like when somebody does a post like that, you're like, okay, are they in serious trouble, or are they just like,
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard to know. I mean, I always take this stuff very, very, very seriously. I mean, I've lost so many friends to suicide, and it's touched my life in a lot of really fucked up ways.
Right.
So I think we as a society do need to kind of take it seriously whenever anybody,
Yeah.
whenever you notice that something's not right, or if somebody is trying to reach out.
Yeah, for sure. And something that I personally do when I make one of those posts and I'm trying to express, the darkness or whatever it is. And I actually just recently did this with a post. I make sure like it starts off with, I am safe, like,
Yeah,
because you don't want to, oh shit, like, is Emmy okay? Like, do I need to run over there? Like, no, I'm safe. I'm
yeah,
just trying to vocalize,
yeah,
and I
really.
think there's a power in that too, because it also, it's self-empowering because you can say I'm safe and then say all the stuff that's fucked up.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
it gives you also a little power to the people that see it going, man, he's really going through some shit, but he's
Totally.
safe. Like he's okay. Like, let's figure that out.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. Like that's really, really, really important, because I think, yeah, sometimes when people post that stuff, if they don't, yeah, it does like sort of trigger, like especially for me, like it's just like, oh fuck,
Yeah.
like, and you're just like scrambling to make sure that they're okay. So I think that's great. That's
Yeah.
great, because yeah, it like, it gives people the opportunity to reach out to make sure you're okay, and just to be there for support without like triggering panic.
Right.
It might be like a life or death situation.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think especially here in the US, it's probably similar in Australia. Like, it's slowly getting better. Certain areas are pushing for more competency with this. But if theoretically, if someone were to call the cops and say, hey, I saw this post from Josh and this is what's going on, he's talking about suicide or whatever, I'm worried, they're sending police officers. That's not fixing or helping a situation. Like,
No,
that's going to potentially exacerbate the situation beyond control.
totally. And yeah, I think just even if they're really nice police officers, I
Right.
think just sending the police to deal with like a mental health crisis is just not, it's like it's just ingrained in us that the police are there when we've done something wrong as
Right.
well, so it just reinforces that stigma. um yeah, it's really, really hard. But so we spoke about the song Inarticulate before,
Mhm.
and that's kind of, I wrote that. That was okay. So that song was about my experience, because I like I said, I've dealt with my own sort of like, sort of at times life-threatening depression.
Yeah.
And so we both know what that's like. Like we both have our own experiences with that. But that doesn't necessarily mean, if we have a friend, and this is what I wrote this song about, a friend of mine who is just like locked in the jaws of this like very, very life-threatening depression. And he had been in and out of, like seeing different doctors and having different diagnoses for years. And he was just at the end of his tether with it all. And
Yeah.
he was in serious danger. He was not safe. And that song was me, like, and I'd had so many conversations trying to like, like saying all the things that we're supposed to say to try and get through. And even though I had been in a similar situation myself, and I knew what that experience was like for me, it's that like inarticulate, like there was nothing I could say that could get through, because
Yeah.
sometimes it is so bad that there's words alone aren't enough, like sometimes. And in that situation, um all I could do was just, you just need urgent care. Like,
Right.
and I don't know if that's something you can do in the US, but here in Australia, and I say this to people because I've like I lost a friend who, you know, like it kind of, he'd never been depressed before in his life, right? He was the happiest, like successful, amazing like person, and then all of a sudden, for the first time when he was like in his late 20s, he just suddenly became depressed, and it hit him like an aggressive cancer. And from when he first started feeling depressed, 3 months later he was gone, and it just came on so fast. And so I guess like my advice to anybody who is in that situation or has a friend is just like, get the fuck to hospital. Just go straight. Just go to emergency. If it's that much of an emergency, just go there, and then and again, it might be different in the US, but here in Australia, you can do that. If you're somebody, rather than calling the cops,
right,
take your friend to the fucking ER, because and then you can sort it out from there, and at least you'll be in a safe space with, you know, not police, medical professionals who can help put a plan in place, and maybe, you know, get them to some kind of facility that can help them on their road to getting back to at least a place of safety.
Yeah, for sure. And that is absolutely an option here in the US that, you know, I don't know of a single hospital. I'm sure there's some out there, but realistically, no medical professional is going to turn you away if you walk in and say, this is the problem. And I do think that is infinitely more powerful and effective than, hey, the cops are at your door. They're going to put you in handcuffs in the back of their car. Like,
night in lockup should do the trick.
Right. Yeah. Like, what the fuck? That's not going to help me at all. It's insane. And I think, you know, coming back to the power of words, I want to talk about Jabberwocky and the story, because that is an incredibly powerful story. I've read the Rolling Stone op-ed that you did, which will be linked in this podcast as well, so that everyone else can read it. Walk through, you know, the mentality of Jabberwocky, which I thought was even pre-trauma event. It's a really cool story that you tell about like the connection that you've made with Alice in Wonderland and the Jabberwocky, and like, I'm more powerful than this fake bird and whatever. But then to see that reality that you've built kind of waste away because of someone else, obviously is insanely difficult to deal with.
Yeah, it was and I mean, it was really bizarre that I kind of like that my brain returned to that metaphor of the Jabberwocky to express this story, because it was just this really bizarre like version of Alice in Wonderland. I think Ringo Starr was in it. That used to just be, whenever I was like, I feel like whenever I was homesick from school when I was a little kid, this was always on TV.
Right.
And it used to scare the fuck out of me. And like looking back now, like I looked it up on YouTube and watched it again, like when I was like doing, you know, writing the stuff like after we did this song, and I was like, it's ridiculous. It's this stupid, like you said, a dumb like bird puppet. But when I was a kid, it scared the fuck out of me. Yeah. And and I just found, like, I just thought it was actually it just really sort of encapsulated that experience of the trauma that I went through. So if anybody hasn't heard Jabberwocky or doesn't know the story behind it, I wrote this song about a really fucked up experience that I had. I was sexually assaulted in Berlin during Redhook's first ever European tour, and the way that I dealt with that was that I didn't really deal with it. I sort of convinced myself, like I had to sort of deny that it had happened, and convince myself it was like a dream, because we were on tour. Like it happened one night, the next morning, to get in the van, drive to another country and load in and play a show. And so I couldn't allow myself to process what had happened, because I would have gone to pieces. So I just like denied it. And that metaphor of the Jabberwocky and Alice in Wonderland, that specific movie, it's kind of like it just keeps sort of popping up in Wonderland whenever Alice is doing something random, and just to scare the fuck out of her, like at just random points in time. And the way that she's finally able to vanquish it at the end is kind of by sort of standing up to it and being like, I don't believe in you, you don't exist, like I, you know, like sort of that sort of mind over matter, like I'm more powerful than this manifestation of my childhood fears. So, and that's kind of what the experience of that trauma for me was like, because even though I didn't consciously acknowledge it or process it, and I kept pushing it away, it would just rear up and kind of like attack me at random times when I was least expecting it. So yeah, I felt like that monster analogy was very, very apt for that. And the craziest thing about that song is because I just out of necessity, like I denied myself from processing that trauma. When we got back to Australia after that tour, like it had just become habit. Like it had just become like, it's not like I could sort of dredge it back up. I just chose not to. And it wasn't actually until I wrote that song that I really actually confronted it and processed it in a healthy way.
Right.
And yeah, and now I can talk about it and laugh about it. Well, not really laugh. Well, I guess, I don't know.
But not in a true humor way, but yeah, like
like, oh, that was the hilarious thing that happened to me kind of way. But you know, it's yeah. So I mean, writing that song, it was very therapeutic in a way that I didn't expect it to be, because I thought I was fine. Like I was just like, yeah, I'm over this. Like, and then when I was writing it, I was like, oh fuck, no, actually, I haven't actually ever dealt with this healthily.
Yeah, and it's incredible, like the duality of this, but the power of the mind is insanely high. And like you said, I can take this, I can put it in a box, I put it in the back of my mind, and I'm never going to look in that box again. It is gone. I'm done with it. And then walking down the street, you know, hearing the same song or whatever it is, you know, that random smell, a car passing by, all of a sudden it's like, oh fuck, like what's happening? Literally.
And it's weird. It's like, with trauma, and I'm sure anybody who's, you know, experienced any kind of like great trauma in their life will relate to this. It's like, even if your mind denies it, your body remembers. So I would have these, even though I'd just like you said, put it in the box and shut the lid on the box and threw the box in the fire. Little things like that, you know, when you're just going about your day and you're not thinking about any of that shit, you've got other stuff on your mind, and then something will happen. And it's like you have this intense physical reaction that you cannot control, which is very bizarre and very strange, because, you know, and it's scary because you realize you're not in control, like you're not in control of it. And yeah, that was definitely a big thing that I had to confront and process, like, you know, years after the fact.
Yeah. And, you know, even I think it's important for people to realize that even if you didn't put it in a box and shove it to the back of your brain, even if you confront it right away after a trauma happens, like there are going to be these triggers that you cannot control. And I mean, it'll range from just oh, that's fucked kind of thought, like, to I'm paralyzed, I don't know what to do, my, you know, like panic attack, anxiety, whatever it is, it can manifest insanely large. And I think it's especially, like, it's always scary, but it's especially scary the first time, because you don't make the connection that, okay, this is triggering that. Like, it was just a car drove by, like it backfired. What was that, you know?
And you're like, what the fuck's wrong with me? Like, am I like losing my mind? And yeah, that's it. And that's why it's so important to, you know, do the self-care, to seek help, even if it is hard. Like, you know, I think we have like a little bit of a hangover from the previous generation, where we are like here in Australia, it's that mentality of, oh, just, suck it up, like life, it could be worse. At least you're not like starving in, some third world country. Like, and, we have that sort of, we put that pressure on ourselves, like, oh, my problems are just, it's nothing, like I can deal with this. But like, I think we all just need to be kinder to ourselves, and especially if we've been through something traumatic, and give ourselves that, acknowledge what happened to us, and give ourselves that space to experience, the trauma reactions, acknowledge it, and then, get help, just get support, whether it's from people we love or from professionals to help us like figure out, the tools that we need to process that. And that's really the only way to really kind of heal properly from any of that shit, is to just face it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I don't know if you experienced this, but kind of going back to when we were talking about the minimalization of trauma and whatnot, in a lot of cases, when someone is sexually assaulted and thank God survives, that seems to be the argument that people try to make to him, is like, well, at least you're still alive. And it's like, what? Okay, but that doesn't make the other part any less fucked up.
I hate that so much. I hate that so much. And like, it's like, you can do that with anything, right? It's like any fucked up thing that happens to you. It's like, you can always sort of compare it, like say, oh, it could be worse. It's like, that is such a fucked up thing to say. It's such a fucked up mentality, and it minimizes everything. It's like, oh, like like this traumatic thing happened to you. Well, at least like, you weren't,
you didn't lose your leg. It's okay.
Yeah,
like
exactly. Like, it's so stupid. Can we just not do that? Can we just like, can people just stop doing that? It's it is so unhelpful to tell somebody, especially if they're reaching out to you about their trauma or something fucked that they're going through. It's not helpful to just say, oh, well, your pain could be worse. So it's really because the underlying message of that is just like, suck it up.
Yeah. Well, Nick, I think
not healthy.
No, it's not. And I had a conversation with a girl on this podcast named Mel Taven, and we've been trying to, when we talk about mental health and mental illness, instead of calling it an illness, we talk about it as mental injury instead, for the fact that this, and I'm going to tie it into what we're just now talking about, because when you say injury, people imagine a physical thing, right? Like, I got shot in the leg, that's an injury or whatever. And you're potentially more likely to help someone that's injured. If they have a broken arm, oh, I can carry your groceries for you.
Yeah.
But if I have a mental illness, it's like, oh, okay. But if I have a mental injury, oh, well, what's going on? Like, there's a little more buy-in to it.
I love that. I love that so much, because it also implies that it's something that you can heal from.
Right.
As well, with rehabilitation and, the proper medical treatment. And it's so like, and I've said this to, when I've, had conversations with friends who have been going through, mental health stuff, and and because there is like, even like, with like my generation, like there's still that stigma and that fear of getting help, because you feel like you're weak. And I usually use that. It's like, well, dude, like, if you broke your leg, you would go to the doctor. So why is your mental health any different? So yeah, I think that's a beautiful way to put it. I love that.
Yeah. And the part that made me think of it was when you said, like when we were talking about it could be worse. It's like, you wouldn't walk up to somebody that had just been shot in the leg and be like, well, at least they didn't shoot you in the chest. Like, okay, dick, but that doesn't make this any better.
Literally. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What is that mentality, man? It's so bullshit.
It really is. If you're okay with it, let's talk a little bit about, you go through tour, you put it in the box, you get home, you write about it. When that box gets opened and you're writing, how does that process of healing start for you? Obviously the song was cathartic in its own right, but like taking it all out of that box and going, okay, like I can rationalize this. I can, I can understand where this is triggers. Like, how did you break that apart, if you will?
It really, really was a process. And I don't think it was, I guess with like the lyrics and stuff. I mean, this is a kind of a cliche thing to say, but they really did just come. That was like, in terms of writing that song, like they really did just come pouring out. And it was like, I sort of confronted there, and there were so many layers to it. It wasn't just the trauma. It was like the fact that because I hadn't told, like, I mean, I barely told anybody that this happened to me, only like the closest people in my life, and I wrote Jabby, like, there was probably about 2 years between when it happened, or like, 1 or 2 years between when it happened and when I started writing this song.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt compelled to write the song, actually not for me, because in my head when I started writing it, I was like, well, I'm fine, like I'm over this. But I felt like I needed to write about it, like to put it out there for other, especially women, in this scene, because I, like, when it happened, it was like probably the first time in my life that I'd been through something that I couldn't find a song that helped me, because there wasn't a song, at least in the kind of these genres of music, that like I couldn't find one that really spoke to me and to that experience. And I was like, well, this is something that happens to so many women. Like it's actually terrifying. Like every single woman I know has a story. They have a story. Like they're varying degrees of, like fucked upness, but it like everyone has at least one story. And I thought, I was just like, isn't that insane that it's such a common experience that we all share, and yet there isn't like a song that really speaks to that. So I felt kind of like a tremendous amount of responsibility to write about it. But I went into it thinking like, I'm fine, I can write about this, like I've been through it. And then it was that process of kind of opening up the box and like and really facing what had happened and how that made me feel. And that was I didn't expect that, and I was terrified. I was so terrified to, even when the song was done, and I was terrified to release it. I was so scared. And I think part of that was this fear that like I think like with Redhook, and when I'm on stage, I kind of shift into this persona where I get to be like this psycho badass, right? And I was terrified that in putting this song out there and writing about that would undermine that persona that I'd built for myself, and that I like and that it would, because I didn't want to be seen like as a victim. I didn't want to be seen as weak, but it was it was incredible that it was really, really the opposite. Like putting this out there, and especially the fact that it's resonated with so many people, and it's helped them, and it's had such a positive impact on them. I feel like it's the most important thing I've ever done. Like it's the most important song I've ever released. And that sorry.
No, you're fine.
Absolutely fine. It's just been it's I don't even have words. It's just been incredible.
And again, looking at the US statistics, because they're easier for me to find, 41.8% of women as of a 2023 study have experienced some form of sexual assault in the US alone. And like, if that number doesn't absolutely make you sick to your stomach, there's a big fucking problem.
Yeah, it's crazy. it's so crazy. And I didn't realize, like, I mean, because it's like, I mean, in a similar way to like depression and anxiety and those, you know, intrusive thoughts of suicide and all of those things that we struggle with, because of the stigma, it's so isolating. Like I told you, like with this experience that I had, until I wrote this song, I didn't talk about it to almost anyone except a few of my very, very close friends. Like I didn't tell my family, like, and it's in a similar way. It's like, oh fuck, like we all share these same fucked up experiences, yet we don't talk about them, and we all suffer alone. And it's like that. I think it's a line in Inarticulate. It's like, strange how we all suffer together, thinking we all suffer alone.
Yes.
And it's because it's just mind blowing. It's like we're all united by these fucked up experiences that we all have, and they're still happening because enough isn't being done to address them. And the only way that is going to change is for us to talk about it. And it's like not, and I mean, you know, it's with sexual assault, it's not, it's hard. It's not like, you know, you have to talk about this fucked up thing that happened to you, because you don't. No. But like nobody's under any pressure to tell their story until they are ready. But it is still important that, you know, we should, and that's one thing that I found with Jabberwocky is like, I can't tell you how many people have, you know, come up to me at shows or messaged me on social media to say like, oh my gosh, like this, like, thank you for this. This has actually inspired me to finally tell my story. And you can see that, and I've seen it, like the positive impact, or the empowering impact that has when people do speak up about their experiences. It makes other people feel like it's okay to talk about theirs, because I think a lot of the time it's that fear that cripples us from talking about it, and that fear of being judged, and fear of people thinking we're weak, or that we're like, you know, or that we should just suck it up, or at least we haven't been shot in the leg, like that fucked up shit. And like, and the only way that's going to change is for more of this, again, like just all of us, you know, having the bravery to speak about our own shit when we're ready to, and hopefully that empowering other people to do the same.
Yeah. And I think, you know, bragging on you a little bit here, but when it comes from, you know, a badass on stage too, that people are, they look up to you and go, shit, like, this incredible badass woman, something terrible happened to her, she's moving on, like I can do that too. Like now I have more motivation to process my story and move forward.
Yeah, I mean, well, thank you. And yeah, I hope so. I mean, like, if I can, the music that we make and the story that I've told can do that for even just one person, it's fucking worth it. It's like, it just makes everything worth it.
Yeah.
And I think that is the most powerful thing that we can do as musicians, and to have a, you know, whatever platform I have, like whatever voice I have, and use it to be able to create that positive change for someone else in their life. Like that is when music is at its most powerful and its most badass, is when it can do that. And yeah, I feel very privileged to be in that position.
For sure. And I think, you know, I've said it on both my podcasts before that, you know, there's different measures of success. Obviously, we all want the commercial level of success and never have to worry about money again or whatever. But it is absolutely right. But like legitimately, and I don't think I'm speaking out of turn or putting words in your mouth, that like, even if you made no more money from another Redhook song, to know that I've positively impacted someone, potentially saved a life, that's worth more than any money that could ever come to me.
Oh, 100. You cannot put a price on that shit. You just can't. Like, it's, yeah, I mean, it makes it all worth it. Like if you can change one person's life for the better by doing something you love, it, man. Like,
Right.
that's why we do this. That's why. And that's like, and I mean, I'm sure you're much the same. It's like music has always played that role for me in the darkest times of my life. Like, I can point to a song or like a band or an album that has gotten me through, has carried me through, has been the light in the dark, has and people say, like, it saved my life, but in a way, it has. It's like having that connection and being able to feel like you are not alone and that someone out there understands what the fuck you're going through. It's worth so much. It's like, it cannot be understated, the importance that music, and again, particularly these genres of music, I don't know what it is, but it's like people who listen to heavy music and pop punk, and it just seems that music is so much more intrinsically kind of woven into our DNA. It's so much a part of who we are. It defines us. Like, it's part of our personality. It's not just something we listen to, just for shits and giggles. Like, it's who we fucking are. So it's so important.
It absolutely is. And I've said that to several friends, that like, I may not always, and I'm pretty good with my words, but I may not always have the words to express how I feel, but I'll find a song that will, like, same thing. I've sent songs to people and I'm like, I'm in my head today, this is where I'm at, and like, I'll send a song or whatever. And it's
status update.
Right. Yeah. The old MySpace thing, right? AOL Instant Messenger's away message. But I think too, within that, it does, the quote unquote mainstream world, at least here in the US, views the heavy music scene as these angry fuckers, like, it's dangerous to go to the show, whatever. And it's like, I've never felt more safe.
Music.
But I've never felt more safe at a show than at a pop punk or a heavy metal show. Like, we're all here for the same reason. We all connect with this thing. We all love this thing. As a music journalist and photographer, I have seen more fights at pop or country shows than I ever have at a metal show. Like, it is insane.
Literally. No, I agree. And there's always a few duds in like any kind of scene, but for the most part, like, I totally agree. It's like, going to, like, there's this kind of, this can sound really wanky, but there is this real sense of magic and a real sense of belonging and community when you go, you go to a show and you go to experience live music, because it's an expression of, again, our identity and there's this massive sense of community of like all these people wearing black t-shirts or whatever, or we're all there like together, experiencing it together. And it's really, really beautiful. And like, that some of my, like, the greatest experiences of my life have been at shows.
Yeah. And I've said, as cliche as it sounds, I've told friends before, like, I am rarely as happy as I am when I'm at a concert. Like,
literally,
at a concert is the best place in the world.
It's like church for emos, man.
Right.
Like,
it absolutely is. I think this is a great time for us to segue. Speaking of live music, let's talk about some of the badass shit you're doing. You are going out with the Smashing Pumpkins to finish up a little bit of their Australian run. What the fuck is happening there,
Dude, I'm so excited. It's like, I can't believe we're gonna be sharing the stage with the fucking Smashing Pumpkins, man. Like, bucket list shit. So it's like, it kicks off in a couple of days. So I'm shitting myself, but I'm so excited. They're doing this, it's like this, their own sort of festival. It's called The World is a Vampire Fest. And there's like, and Jane's Addiction are playing, and there's wrestling showcases. It's going to be wild. I'm so excited.
It's nuts. And, it made me think, minus the wrestling, I thought of like old school Warped Tour, like, oh, it's a music festival, but they're skateboarders and stuff, like, this is really rad. And then when I saw this tour announcement pop up, I'm like, holy shit, Billy Corgan's taking some of his NWA guys to go wrestle at a music show? What the fuck?
in Australia, man. I know, it's so wild. And like, yeah, I love that, because I mean, growing up, Warped Tour was like, I wanted to play Warped Tour so bad, and now it's dead. So I'm hoping, I don't know what the if there's any updates with Warped, but I saw
nothing I've seen.
Yeah, they did a really sadistic April Fool's Day, right? That got me for a second. I was like, what? And then I looked at some of the bands and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, right.
Yeah.
April Fools.
And
because again, the time difference thing, because it was April 2nd here when I saw it, so I was in April Fool's mode.
Yeah, but and Kevin Lyman is the type of mad genius that absolutely would resurrect it for a year or two. You know what I mean? Like, all right, let's do one more or whatever. And it's like, bro, don't toy with our fucking emotions. You know, like this is this is big. The other announcement that just came out not too long ago, as in I think yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. You guys are hitting the UK with fucking Stand Atlantic and Beauty School Dropout and just fucking gonna kill it. So what's happening here?
Dude, yeah, no, I'm so excited. Like, yeah, like the Stat guys are like really good mates of ours, and we've been wanting to tour together for ages. So we're so bloody excited to be doing it in the UK and Europe. And yeah, really excited to see Beauty School Dropout as well. Like, so much hype around that band, and they're so sick. So I cannot wait. It's gonna be so much fun, and I really hope that we can get to the US soon. I mean, everybody keeps asking us about it, and I want to go so bad. And we've had like some offers and stuff, but it's your visa laws, man.
I know, it's bullshit.
It's such bullshit. It's so I want to go so bad, man.
Yeah, I literally just had Jake on from Between You and Me. They're coming over and doing a run with Knuckle Puck and Real Friends. And I was like, you don't have to give me the exact dollar, but we were talking about being DIY and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, we're basically 10,000 in the hole before we ever touch the ground in the US to get there.
Yeah.
And that's with just the band and a photographer. That's not bringing any road crew. They're doing all their own stuff.
Yeah, that's so wild. It's and that's the reason why we haven't, because like, just to put it in perspective, I'll give you a fucking dollar amount, I don't care. So for us, just to get the working visa to be able to come over, and this is just for the four of us in the band, to be able to get the working visas to be able to come over and play shows is $16,000 Australian. That's before flights, that's before accommodation, van hire, crew, all that shit, which is insane. And whereas like to go to UK and Europe, you don't have to worry about that working visa stuff. Like, you just need to pay. And we're independent, we've always been independent, and it's a delicate thing, because we're doing the growth is there, and we can see like it's working really well for us, which is why we've sort of turned away a lot of deals, because we don't want to get into debt. We're not in any debt. We're growing sustainably, but to tour the US would be such a huge financial hit that it would put us in immense amounts of debt. So it sucks, because we want to come over there so bad, and I believe that we will, and hopefully soon. But we're trying to build ourselves sustainably, and we can't tour the US until we're in a financial position to be able to sort of invest that massive chunk of money. Which sucks. It sucks. I hate like the fucking business side of all this, man. Like, I just want to come over there and play. But it's so insane. And that's why, like, when I was talking to Jake about it, we were obviously pushing the shows and stuff, and we're like, what you guys don't realize, to land here, we're $10,000-$15,000 in debt by the time we get to your city. Like, if we don't come, this is a huge thing in the US, and I fucking hate kids for doing this. If you don't go to a show in their specific city, like, oh, why didn't you come to Chicago? Or, like, bro, I was 45 minutes down the fucking road. You could have drove. And like, we were trying to make that point that like, especially for bands that
like you guys, anyone from Australia, overseas, anywhere really, when they're here, don't miss the opportunity to see them, because it is A, insanely expensive for them to get here. B, it may be fucking years before they can get back. And C, especially you guys, between you and me, things like that, like, we're DIY. So this is our money that has been put out on the table. Come buy a t-shirt. Like, the ticket's cool, but buy a t-shirt, drop $1 in the tip jar. Like, it's mind-blowing how many people. And I was telling Jake, like, I'm gonna go to the last night of the tour, and it's like a 2.5, 3 hour drive, and he's like, bro, we have people in Australia that won't even do that, like, it's insane.
Yeah, it's not, it's nuts. And I mean, I feel like you guys are pretty, you guys are pretty lucky in the sense that, like, there are so many, I guess you guys have access to so many amazing shows, right, and there's so many amazing tours, whereas the scene in Australia is a lot smaller.
Yeah.
So I kind of understand, in a way. It's kind of like, the economy's shit. Right. You got to be careful what you spend. Like, everybody's struggling right now. But I think, yeah, that's freaking amazing that you're driving 3 hours to see Byam.
Yeah.
They're so good. Have you seen them before?
Not live. I've only obviously seen like videos, but I've not seen them live. So I'm stoked for it.
Yeah, they're sick. Love those guys.
Yep. And on the DIY thing, they're a prime example of someone that signed to a label. They were with Hopeless, and they've since terminated their contract and everything. And Jake said, like, not knocking Hopeless, but we're in a better position now than we ever were on a label, because it's all us. It's organic. Yeah. It's all coming back to us. Obviously, there's little bits of fees for other things, but it's much more sustainable, ironically, to not be on a label, because you're not paying back the bank, if you will.
Literally, yeah. And it's funny because it's been this kind of strange yet validating experience with Redhook, because when we first sort of came out, like, we shopped our debut EP, Bad Decisions, around to a few labels, and I think the industry didn't really get us, because they couldn't really put us in a box, and they were like, "What is this? Like, what are you?" And we're just like, "We're Redhook. We, why are you trying to?" They're like, "Yeah, but are you a pop punk band? Like, are you a heavy band?" It's like, we're both, dude. Like,
right.
Why are you telling us we need to, like, fit into this little genre box that you understand? And, like, we just had this, like, the feedback was just like, no, we don't get it. Like, but now that they've seen us grow so much since we released this EP, a lot of them are coming back and offering us deals now. And we're like, well, we don't need you now. Like, we're like, our streaming and everything, we've grown this organically by ourselves to this point where we are making money, man. Like, it's where we're putting it, like, we invest everything back into the band.
Right.
But it's sustainable. It's sustainable and it's growing. And, like, we've been turning down a lot of deals, a lot of even, like, big money deals and it's scary. It's scary because it's like, someone offering you all this money up front, and it's tempting because, we're still fucking struggling artists, but it's, we're making the choice, the scary choice, to back ourselves and back that we can keep growing this ourselves, and see where this crazy ride takes us.
Yeah.
Because it's working so far. And the downside is it'll probably take us a little while longer to be able to get to the US, but we're going to get there. I believe we will get there. Hopefully, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for next year.
Yeah. And I think it's obviously just a matter of time. And to put it in perspective for people on the streaming side of things, for you guys, you are over, as of us talking right now, 366,000 monthly listeners on Spotify alone. And, like, not knocking that by any stretch, because it's an incredible feat. But what I think casual fans or listeners don't understand is they see that number and they're like, oh, they must be doing really well. And it's like, no, because the payout on streaming is dog shit. So that's like $43 a month is what they're making here.
Streaming. Yeah. I mean, it's like, it could be better, but it's, you know, it's not too bad. Like,
right. It's not literally $43, guys. Like
it's not $43 a month. I mean, it could definitely be better, but it's definitely like, it's not it makes a big difference.
Right.
The money, the streaming money, and it's like, yeah, and especially like with the growth that we've seen, like even in the past like year or two, it's good. It's like, it helps.
Yeah. And, you know, I think the important thing though is for maybe specifically for those of us in the US, you guys do have a merch shop. So shameless plug here, go to the merch shop, even though you aren't going to see Redhook for a year, maybe shirts and shit to wear to the show and have Emmy sign them.
100%. I'll sign anything.
Awesome.
As long as it doesn't be canceled.
Right. Which in today's culture could just be a t-shirt. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I don't think, look, I promise none of the Redhook t-shirts will get you canceled.
Right.
But they're all there. They're on the, I think, yeah, you go to Spotify, there's like a link, get yourself some threads.
Yeah.
It'll be a good time.
It will be. And I think, you know, for those that are lucky enough to see you coming around Australia with the Smashing Pumpkins, don't wait. Those tickets have been going insane, super quick, selling out some shows. And the UK, I think, is going to be the same because I think they're itching for Stand Atlantic to get back there. They want to see you guys now too. Like, it's going to go very fast.
We're so excited. I love the UK and Europe. So yeah, we've been wanting to get back there for the past since we came back last time. So yeah. It's gonna be super, super fun. And I imagine like the tour shenanigans are gonna be cooked. It's gonna be great.
Oh, I bet. I did hear a story talking about tour shenanigans really fast. I did hear a story. I was listening to a podcast that you were on fairly recently about a shoey incident. Why are Australians so fucked and doing shoeys?
Dude, it's so stupid. Like, I did, and I'm assuming this is just an Australian thing, right? Like,
I've never seen anybody drink a beer out of a shoe.
It's so stupid. It's so cooked. And yeah, the story was like, I got peer pressured into doing a shoey on like, and it was, I shouldn't have done it, but I was saying, no. And my stupid bandmates just kept like playing until and I was like, you motherfuckers, all right. And I just did it. Anyway, I got like gastro for a week after we came back. And I was like, fuck you guys, never again. Do not drink a beer out of a shoe. Shoes are so unhygienic and disgusting and filled with bacteria. Just don't do it. It's the stupidest like cultural thing. It's not even a cultural thing. Like it's just stupid. Don't do it. Don't chug beer out of a shoe.
Again, and I've never seen anywhere else that does it. It blew my mind. Like the first time I saw, I don't even remember what band it was, but the first time I saw it, I'm like, are they just like going for shock value? Like, what the fuck was the point of it? Like, I still can't wrap my head around what is the point of doing it.
I honestly cannot tell you. It's just this bizarre cultural thing, but also there's like this big backlash against it. Like you see people on Twitter, because like whenever international artists come out, some idiot in the crowd will start a shoey chant, like shoey, shoey, shoey. And then like, there's always backlash. It's just because it's embarrassing. It's like embarrassing, man. Like, I mean, look, I'll do it. If it's like a brand new shoe, sure, whatever, I'll drink the beer out of the shoe. But if some random hands you a fucking shoe off their foot, like, forget about it, man. You don't know what kind, like, you fucking drinking someone's foot fungus, like, ew.
Yeah. So disgusting.
Don't do it.
Yeah, not worth it ever. I say ever. If there's like $1 million check tied to it, maybe do the shoey, but
maybe.
Right.
But yeah, still. The gastro isn't fun.
Right. Right. Emmy, I've enjoyed this conversation so much. So let's kind of do the standard outro, right? I'm obviously going to link all your socials and everything, but where can people find you? What's the best way to interact? And then obviously getting out to see you at a show.
Yeah, for sure. So all across socials, we are redhook. Yeah, if you want to chat, choose a DM, check out the music on Spotify or wherever you stream your tunes. The new album's dropping next week, April 21st. It'll be out everywhere. Debut album. We're so excited. And yeah, I hope you dig it.
Yeah, sure. Planning on having this up in time for that. So I think this is going to go up on Monday, the 17th in America. So probably either that night or the 18th, because you're a time traveler. You and your witchcraft. But I appreciate you having this conversation and being so open and vulnerable with your story, because I do think, again, these conversations, like we've said, are what's going to move that needle from this is a stigma to this is normal to we can repair and help. And I think, it's incredible to see you using your platform so heavily for it, and not only hiding behind the words and the metaphors. It's very real and true with you.
Thanks so much for having me, Josh. Yeah, it's been like really awesome to be able to chat about all this stuff. It really does mean a lot to me. So I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. That's everything I've got for you. So you go enjoy your day. I am probably going to get ready for bed here soon.
Well, sleep tight, my friends. And yeah, hopefully we'll get to hang out with you in real life sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? It's probably cheaper for me to get a ticket and fly to the UK and see you at a UK show than it is for you to get here. Yeah, there we go. So definitely looking forward to it, though. We'll absolutely, whenever you get to the States, I will find a show that I can make. So
hell yeah. Awesome, dude. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emmy.